All right, well, thank you, guys. We're here to talk about stakeholders, CTE stakeholders. I think they're a pretty vital component. But as far as qualifying that, who are they, for each of our programs? I'm in auto. Mike, you're in auto?
Auto.
Scott, you're in auto. Dwayne, you're in law enforcement?
Yep, and first responder.
First response. And Mike, you're doing
Graphics.
Communications.
Yep.
Is the fine art thing is separate from that? So-
It's kind of, there's aspects that are combined.
So who are our stakeholders? My stakeholders? Counselors at the districts who fill my program, essentially. Businesses that I'm trying to involve in advisory, so I can give them what they want in a product. Parents, are the parents stakeholders? And if so, how do we communicate with them? Parent conferences, right? I don't have very good parent conference numbers, but I'm in constant contact with so many of them. I think that explains it, but they are a stakeholder. Every single one of them is benefiting firsthand from their students in my class. So, parents, students, the counselors at our home districts, our local regional businesses, what else? Who contributes?
You had mentioned on the questionnaire the three most important to running and maintaining a quality CTE. I took a different look at it, just thought more of the nuts and bolts of it. I thought about administration would be number one, because they're the ones that make sure that we got programs that are viable, as far as is there jobs out there for the programs we have. And then I thought about secondary would be staff, because you could build this ideal perfect program, but if you don't have somebody to run it, it's not going to be at its optimal. Whereas you could have a marginal program but an excellent teacher and still be able to work with the system. And then I thought about advisory board, because that's your connection to the community. Make sure that we got a pulse on what's needed out there. So that's kind of what I thought were the major stakeholders.
That's a good point. Staff being a stakeholder for sure. I mean, there's some place where we can apply our trade, pass on our knowledge. Advisory board stakeholders, staff as stakeholders, and I'm sorry, what was the primary administration because of the marketing benefits?
Well, everything, because that's where the money starts. It's where we allot a certain amount of money to this program or that program, or just researching what's the trend for the next 50 years. Okay. Somebody has to be thinking about that.
Yeah, and that is a question that I have is, do our stakeholders change, or have they always been these same groups?
I mean, I guess it depends on what area you're talking about as far as stakeholders, I guess.
See, I took a different take on that. I kind of took, the take I had for question one was what is and what I believe should be. What is parents and students 1 and 2 interchangeable? Because at this point, they don't have necessarily the choices. I've heard students say, I wanted to take this class last year, but my parents wouldn't let me. Okay. And then they come in as seniors, and because now they've gotten the okay. And then for number 3, that's where I thought administration, but it wasn't on the list, and I thought, well, then to me it's about secondary counselors. So if we have the students and we have the parents and the counselors are marketing our programs the way they should, okay, those would be my top 3. And I think, well, for the way it is now. And you can see where, the counselors definitely affect what happens in our classroom, and the students we get, I think they're wielding way too much power as far as how they're influencing students. What I think it should be about the students. It should be about business and industry, and then to bridge that gap, we've got our advisory boards. That's what I would like to see it in the end, where our students come in, our advisory board helps us initiate that, bridge that gap. It also gives us advice on what they think might be in the program or what might not be in the program. And then it's about those secondary schools that are post-secondary schools that, okay, now we've got them, we've prepared them, we're giving them college credit for this, and I've been turned down so many times by these post-secondary schools. They'll take credits from Alexandria, which will take our credits, but then they will not take credits from us directly. You know, that kind of thing, where if they've met requirements, they should be the ones going, yep, we'll take them. We'll give them that intro course for free, because then we're going to have them for 2 years. But they're so short-sighted about that, oh, we're going to lose, you know, whatever it is, cost per credit for an intro course that's 4 credits, and they might lose a couple $100. We're not going to give it to them. You know, so in the end, I'd like to see it kind of more of a process like that. We get the students, and parents become kind of almost a secondary thing, because as soon as they graduate from high school, it's not about what mom and dad wants anymore.
Right.
It's about what they want, this career path they're choosing, at least temporarily. You know, so that's kind of how I looked at it.
That's very, very much in line with the way I see it and how I would like to see the program. My programming, enrollment numbers, and where they come from and why change. But I'm looking at students, parents, and counselors as really kind of filling my seats at this time, and I want more advisory as a bigger stakeholder part to pull in or resist them.
And I have very limited involvement from advisory board as far as departments, because police are different. They don't want to give you information. They don't want, you know, students visiting and that kind of thing. And, you know, they've got some different takes on things, you know, because it has to be that way, you know, data privacy and all this other stuff. But you don't see departments coming here or wanting to come here saying, what do you got for us? What's coming down the chute in 2 years?
Right.
What are students we need to look for? Because we want to start, you know, building some relationship with those students. Now, I have officers come in on their own, or the department okays it and they come in and they participate with whatever activity we got going. But that's kind of it. So
Very little advisory board as a stakeholder or input into your.
yeah, my advisory board are basically, they're, you know, guys that are willing to participate and, you know, facilitate things like, okay, I know airport guys. Well, they call their buddy because they're a retired airport, and now we get to go see behind the scenes at the airport. That kind of thing. That's mostly what my advisory board is. And then when we do different activities, they come in and participate.
I think too, I can definitely talk to how important the students are in my one block. You know, it's hard enough to get enough students from the outside surrounding schools, but so I think now I have 4 out of my whole class that are from Annandale, and then, you know, the rest are ALC students, which is tough because their attendance is not as good, and they're not as motivated to do well. I guess because they're not necessarily getting a grade, they're getting the hours. So I can definitely see where the students are, you know, toward, you know, very top of the list for me.
Primary
And then like you say, that the advisory board committee, that was my first advisory board committee meeting was, I believe it was in November, and it was probably one of the most beneficial meetings I've ever had in my 10-year teaching career. Just people that know what they're talking about, that have done this for so many years, and from reputable places, Dunwoody, Hennepin Tech, kind of some surrounding community people. But it would be nice to get more of the surrounding community, just businesses and things that students know of or have had relationships with in the past.
And as a stakeholder, then your advisory boards from industry and are going to contribute more strongly to your programming rather than you having to be reactive and design around, you know, what are my students, what can they do, what are they interested in doing,
Right.
how can I motivate them? You're going to have more industry input asking you to build these kinds of, you know, skills.
Right, correct, yeah.
One stakeholder that has a lot of power that you don't want is really the parents.
because especially in CTE, that when they were in school, their big deal is you have to go to four-year college, that's the path to success. And that's what they know, and so that's what that's what the counselors tell the kids, that's what they tell the parents. So that's what they want to push their kids into.
Even if it's not realistic.
You know, and that's the thing that the student could be really good and they want to take construction, auto, whatever it is, but mom and dad might say, no way, you're not taking these classes, that you need to do college prep.
So
Because of this stigma.
They can be,
Yeah.
they can be detrimental as a stakeholder.
Yeah.
At this age,
Yeah.
juniors and stuff.
And I mean, it really comes into the counselors too, and just not telling the whole truth and what's really out there.
Well, how do we get them to tell the whole truth, or how do we clarify what it is that we actually do? How do we communicate that we're delivering, relevance and rigor and, I'm just not gonna let a kid go through my class for the whole year without having him be able to do something at the end of that time.
Yep. It's just informing them that, getting them to realize that the four-year degree is not the path, that crunching numbers really, that if they start to look at how much college education really costs, what they can do with their
Available
Yeah.
opportunities on the
getting a
outside.
degree in Latin,
Right.
is not necessarily going to be the most successful path for them.
Well, the nation
Study that language.
churns out more four-year degrees every June than there are people living in North Dakota. I mean, we're just cranking them out.
Yo,
And where are they all going?
what are they doing?
They all gotta live somewhere, they all
That's-
gotta drive someplace, they all need infrastructure and emergency capability.
One of my members of my advisory board, Pete Rivard from Dunwoody, mentioned the fact that a lot of his students are older students, 30s, 40s, that have gone and got their 4 or 5 year, 6-year college degree and spent a ton of money, and now
Looking
they
for a
have.
way to pay for it.
Yep, now they're back in the two-year college, looking for something that's makes more sense and more of a
In-demand skill.
in-demand skill that can be. And Pete said right now they're 95 to 98% job placement.
Wow.
So something that where they can almost guarantee a job after the 2
I
years.
have interesting input from my post-secondary contacts too, and it's almost exclusively, already working adults that are trying to find something that actually pays, that they can get full-time and benefits from. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, the link back to the parents thing and getting them to agree or seeing what's going out there is really the getting business and industry more involved, and that's through the advisory boards too. That getting the parents more involved on what's out there, what jobs can't they fill right now, and how many skilled jobs the industry they can't fill them. That these are the positions that are open versus your 4-year degree. Here are the positions that are open.
The skills gap is huge.
It's really large.
Well, coming from the education side as a teacher, absolutely, your stakeholders. Coming from the administrative side, the ones that you haven't mentioned yet that you need to mention are, first of all, school boards. They're the ultimate person that are gonna make the determinations here. Anything that we move forward on has to be approved by them. So I think, your stakeholders would be definitely school boards also you want to add to your list. Not that your list isn't important, because it is, because it directly affects you, but I'm thinking from the administrative side. So school board is very important. Your state representatives, legislation, they're making the rules and the requirements. And then CTE administration and organizations, they're also they're talking to the state representatives to change some of the rules and laws. So one of the new laws that you probably heard is the world's greatest workforce. There's a lot of, there's probably a lot of things that aren't important in there, but the one thing that I pulled out of that whole, how many pages of things going on with that is the communication at earlier ages, at the 8th grade and 7th grade level, of career-based counseling came out of that. And that's big.
Discussing real job markets.
Yeah, so for example, you've been talking about how we're going to do this. This morning I was at St. Michael, 8th grade. They have like a homeroom type. And I presented to probably 60 students in there about their future, job opportunities, the cost of college, how many jobs are out there, the top 15 jobs from 2010 to 2020 in Minnesota. Only 2 of them require a 4-year degree. The rest are all skill orientation or a 2-year degree program. So I've communicated that. That's one of my jobs is to do that. But those I have to filter through these different stakeholders.
Some of the labor market statistics are striking. Something like 7% of the employed people in the state of Minnesota are like transportation related, and this is
Oh, absolutely.
enormous.
And they said they have 250 openings, job openings in their city.
Wow.
And
Perm?
yeah, and he
There's
said,
250 people in.
yeah, well, I mean, is that where Lund is? Where's Lund at?
Yeah.
In that area?
Yes.
Lund is hiring 175. They just added on to their production line, and they're adding 175 jobs. Well, they don't have enough people to fill those jobs. So he said he can't even get people to work in his school in, custodian and food service and transportation,
Staff.
any of that, because they can make a lot better wage out there. But we have a ton of jobs out there that cannot be filled.
Yeah.
Every company I've talked to in town here, manufacturing and different, they've got 10 openings.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
the North Dakota's oil, it's a black hole sucking everything in.
Right. So,
Those are huge points. Administration, people who are putting the legislation in place and trying to adapt it with what exists and where we want to go with it, that I haven't really explored much other than outside of kind of classroom stuff. School boards, I guess I hadn't considered. I feel kind of detached from all that. It's more of a, I don't know, maybe it's my program, but it's not an intimate setting, but it's a very kind of tightly controlled.
Well, when you started mentioning that, the first thing I thought of, well, I'm looking through the world in my eyes.
Yes, yeah, through your
You know,
program.
the things that you have to do to, keep things going and, who are contributing the most that could benefit your program,
Yeah,
So, and you've got a completely different set. You're looking at it from the top down.
one that I think we have to be aware of for the very reason, Perkins funding.
yep.
Okay. Mike, you had some really good questions. Would like to
I think
hear
one of
some
them, we kind of talked a little bit, but just on what have you found to be the most effective way to market to our students? And then how is that different when you market to parents? Like you said, parents are important to kind of get on our side and be a part of the process.
For me, my idea on that is that for student to student, it's word of mouth. That you can give them the fanciest brochure and flyer, and they don't care. That they're going to talk to their friends and say, "Was this program cool? Did you have fun? What did you do?" Parents like the flashy flyers. That they want to know. They're looking more long term. The kids want to. What are they going to do this semester?
Right.
The parents want to go. Okay, they're going to do this semester. What can they do after? Where's this going to take them? They're looking further down the road. Where's that road lead? They take this class. Why do they want to take auto or construction or graphics versus taking, say, a college prep class or like an AP calculus or whatever it
Do you
is?
think in marketing to those parents, if we were to get, or if we were to expand job placements, shadowing and internships, that's going to add to that glossy effect?
They like that. They like seeing their kids working. I don't know, just my experiences that I've seen, that those are very positive programs because the kids are employed, they were making good money, and there was a future there.
And possibly just now, in these last 10 years, just helping out.
Yeah.
At home, sure. So that's, I think that's a step that we're making
Yeah.
as a center right now.
Well, and that's why I brought on Mark Lee, and definitely we used that model in Wisconsin. It was a very easy sell for parents. I mean, parents saw it because the kids were selling it to the parents, and they understood. They opened up the door, and And the companies open up the door to the parents also. So, you know, the dark, dirty, dangerous type thing too with manufacturing or welding or automotive, it's kind of gone by the wayside if you get them in the door. And we got kids in the door. And I think we really need to keep on working on that. And that's basically why I brought Mark Lee on.
Yeah, I think that's gonna make a huge difference going forward.
Yeah. Now, it's gonna be a while, it's gonna take a while, but I think it's a gold mine.
It's happening, I mean, it's
yeah.
a process.
Yeah.
I'm trying mightily to get the local area dealers, but they are just hard to wrangle for a half an hour or even an hour once a semester or even once a year. But boy, they call me when they need something. If I don't have it right then, I don't hear from them for 6 months. You guys have that experience with advisory or, or?
We have a pretty involved advisory, but not too much from the dealership end. It's mostly independent shops, education, parts stores and stuff like that.
That's kind of where I'm at, smaller, local, and I know the dealers they all have their post-secondary kind of manufacturer-specific deal. But think of the benefit to them if we could place entry level. Wouldn't they, I mean, you go through, say, Ford Asset, and you need a sponsoring dealer to begin with. But what if you already work there, running parts or washing cars or doing oil changes? So I could just get them here.
If I was making the connection with the service manager or the service area on the dealer proper, but sometimes it's their perceptions too, because they don't want anybody under 18 for insurance reasons and stuff like that.
With the new website, with more of getting out in the community, I think that's, like I said, definitely something that's changing.
I have done 20 plus presentations. Done it, in fact, I have Annandale board meeting tonight. I did Maple Lake last week. I don't have many school boards left. I think I only have one school board left. So I did presentations at every school board. Done Rotary clubs, Chamber of Commerce, in almost every community. And every time I do a presentation, I usually get one or two more, which is good. I told you this morning I did the 8th graders at St. Michael. I did faculty meetings. And out of all of those meetings, and I'm kind of addressing some of the things that you were talking about, the perception thing with the Learning Center has only I've only heard that from adults, not students. So the question was asked of me at one of those meetings was, you have this perception problem, and so what are you doing, to change that? And I said, I'm here talking to you right now. And I said, the perception needs to be, this is the place to come because of all the benefits that we have here. And I even told the lady who asked the question, I said, I've only heard that from adults. Okay? So you guys need to stop talking about it and talk about the benefits that we offer.
Yeah, gently.
And we need to.
Well, this is what kids are hearing around the dinner table.
Right, but that's going to trickle out.
Yeah.
Start talking. Oh man, I didn't know they were doing this and that over there. You can get college credit. I mean, when I did the 8th grade presentation this morning, the kids were like, "What? Wow! You can do that. You can do, yeah." And they were pretty amazed. So I mean, I think it is changing. We got some image things to work on. I knew that. That was one of the things why they brought me on also. But website, more information out there.
Dynamite video.
Dynamite video, thanks to the staff.
All the newspaper articles, is it monthly?
Yeah, we've been doing monthly newspaper articles. My next step is to polish up our presentation materials a little bit and have booths at parent-teacher conferences to try to access the parents a little. I'm the new director at Wright Tech, and the same thing. Oh, that tech college over there? And so there's people in town that don't even know. So I'm trying to get the word out, trying to get more people involved, and talking from my stance. State legislators haven't been here. I've sent the news, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 45. I've sent them emails, constant emails every week to come do a news story on us. But I'm trying. it's gonna be a little bit, but I think we're progressing in the right direction. But getting those individual, I meet with superintendents on a regular basis. I meet with the principals scattered out throughout the year. But one of the better meetings that I had was the counselors from all the school districts. And I presented on facts and figures. And they were the farthest ones off, talking about stakeholders. Out of the percentage of, I always start my presentations with, what is the percentage of four-year degree or higher in the United States, Minnesota, and Wright County. And the farthest group off, even the eighth graders were closer than the counselors.
Well, and they typically have not been our biggest allies.
Well, is that just because, like you said, they're not telling them the truth, or they just don't know the?
They might not even, I think they don't even know it. And I tell you what, once I had that meeting, the counselors are the ones that have asked me to come in and present to different groups. So they're slowly getting on board too, where I don't think, they were probably promoting us poorly.
There isn't a lot of doubt.
Here's a dumping ground, or here's
Yeah, and that's- that
this kid needs to fill a schedule. Those type of things. So I think we're moving in the right direction, definitely. And some of the schools that I had the biggest concern with, they're the ones that actually have been calling me about, hey, how do you think we should move forward? It also helps that I smooth them over with the counseling model that I talked about that we had in Wisconsin compared to here. Minnesota has one of the worst counseling models in the United States as far as ratios. Most schools are about 300 or less per counselor. Minnesota's like 450 kids per counselor. Plus, they don't
Fill their seats.
Yep.
So what was the video you showed us? How to succeed in
Changing.
change economy, yeah.
Yeah, I think I watched that again today. Just
Yeah.
just the points that the actual numbers and how it all
Not
works
all
out.
aligned with the.
Right.
Yeah. The 1-2-7 ratio
Yeah.
has been around since 1950.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, but universities made an awful lot of dough in the meantime.
I
Yep.
don't know if that's, wow, that's staggering.
Well, I was trying to think how, like a school, 1, 2, 7. Okay. Now, usually you have a superintendent and you have some administration. But then the teachers have those, 4-year degrees too, so they fall in that 2 category. Well, where's the 7 come from? Well, then I started thinking about, you got cooks, you got bus drivers, you got custodians, but then all of the extra, everybody needs a pencil and pen. They gotta manufacture all those. When you start adding all that stuff up in the materials that you use in school, that's where the 7 comes in. So it is, I started adding up, and it is a 1-2-7 ratio even in schools.
Mike, you look lost over there.
No, I'm just looking at all the questions here. I mean, last one, how do you involve members of the local committee, our community in the CTE program? I think for us, for our program, it's the advisory board.
Yeah.
They're probably our, biggest outside advocate, because I hear other people,
Benefactor, collaborator.
well, they'll talk about stuff, and they're business owners and stuff, and they talk to other people and they say, oh, that program, they do this and that, and so they're, outside of the advocating that we do here, they're, are people out there in the field more or less that are actually putting out the good word for you. So I think it's good to have at least for our program, because they're that connection with the community. They get out there. I don't have much time to get out and talk to as many people as I like to, but they're out there every day,
Right.
dealing with people in the community.
Strong proponent then, if we can build a solid advisory, I think that's
Yep.
time well spent.
That's one thing that was not required in Wisconsin, advisory committees, where they are here. which I was very impressed with that. I really liked that idea. But the way we were able to communicate with those outside stakeholders, companies, was through the youth apprenticeship interns. So, I don't know if I shared this with you, but in Central my high school alone had 700 kids. We had 14 youth apprenticeships and 40 interns out of our building alone. So that just opened up doors, you know. And in Central Wisconsin, we had 300 youth apprenticeships going on. So one of the other things that we did with our school is we had a career in action day, and the freshmen would have junior achievement come in, so they're community members, and they had 15 breakout sessions. The sophomores actually toured the tech school and the university, so half a day at the tech college and half a day at the university. The juniors, the whole junior class, split up and went to 20 different companies for the full day. So if you were interested in being an engineer, you went to an engineer firm. If you were interested in automotive, you went to an automotive repair company. They would spend the whole day. And then as seniors, we brought the community into the exit interviews with our students. So there was one school member and one business on each one of the interview committees that we individually.
Point to point.
Yeah. So we had I would say about 200 different companies we were involved with.
That is
just in one day.
Well, transistorized process from education to occupation right there.
Yeah.
If you got industry and education and the student who's now going from one to the other.
Yeah. So I think the advisory boards, I really like them, but I think it's almost limited, you know, where we open up the door to everything, you know, and I think, you know, we're trying to do a little bit more of that. We had an HR meeting here. I don't know if most people even knew about that, but we invited through workforce development. We were in contact with them, and they said, we meet with the HR group. All the human resources directors from all the different companies in Wright County meet like once a month. And I said, well, let's have a meeting at Wright Tech. Sure. So then we talked about our programming, and we talked about, well, there was a good meeting on their part about lack of skilled labor and what they're doing and all that, and then we actually toured them through them.
I could build a little more advisory, but that is.
Yeah. Well, see, you know, the thing is, if Minnesota were to, youth apprenticeship used to be here in Minnesota a lot. It was before my time, because even had somebody that worked here there was somebody that worked here with youth apprenticeship, and they had connections, and they would get these people jobs all these different places. But that's one way you can get them in there to work under that 18-year-old. Right now, everybody's just frightened to death to work with somebody that's under 18
Oh, yeah,
because of insurance.
And we've even presented that to them now that there is, and that actually was law back in 2007 that they brought it back. It ended in about 2005, 2006 youth apprenticeship.
Okay. Yeah.
And the reason why it ended was it was funded through the post-secondaries.
Okay.
Which, I don't know why you would do that. You want post-secondary involvement, but why would you have them be the lead when the kids are coming from the secondary?
Right.
It's a
Right.
youth
They're-
apprenticeship.
It's like
Right.
two different funding
So,
sources
yeah.
entirely.
So when the state kind of started cutting back on the funding on it, the post-secondary said, this isn't our program, we're done with it.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of ended, that's why it ended. And now it's coming back, and they actually went over to Wisconsin,
Okay.
believe it or not. And actually Wisconsin's like one of the best
So it's
in
got the
the
model,
nation.
yeah.
And they actually are using, if you go on their website, Minnesota's youth apprenticeship website, they have the forms out there, and probably half the forms still say Wisconsin on them. Which, why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
And Wisconsin said, absolutely, go ahead. Just, you know,
Use some
That
white
just
out.
seems weird.
give us credit for, a little bit of credit for it, and that was about it, but they're wide open to it. So as a teacher, I had youth apprenticeships. out of our
I'm
school.
kind of concerned about Ray answering what are the biggest concerns related to the Wright Tech Center's longevity from what you've seen so far?
If I don't see there any big concerns, you know. Well, I shouldn't say that.
No, over.
I would say my biggest concern is just the overall funding and overall cost, because we're continue to cost more. Just due to our, you know, most people don't notice, but our steps and lanes here, just by moving up a year, not without a new negotiation, costs about $11,000. Okay, that's just a normal move. That's not, so we're paying out $11,000 more per year, and it's gonna grow even more.
It's exponential.
You're right. So, that's one of my concerns, and the schools are gonna get to the point where we're gonna have to limit. So I'm actually starting to look at other funding sources, or look at the state and say, listen, if a center like this is growing, why couldn't we have separate funding for that?
Like, can we levy or something?